What an incredible video. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. My name is Kathy Roth-Duquet, and I'm the CEO and president of Blue Star Families. Blue Star Families is a national nonprofit dedicated to supporting active duty, National Guard and Reserves, veterans and their families from all ranks and services. We work to support military families while strengthening local communities. Blue Star Families has always been inclusive of all individuals who identify themselves as part of a military family. I put myself on video here for you. Great to see you all, and thank you for welcoming. Thank you for joining us here today. We wanted to start off with that great video showcasing the stories of so many terrific military spouses out there. We want to invite you to share your stories with us today too. You'll see on the screen a place to share your stories, or on the chat box right here. If you're with us on Zoom, you can send your stories in and we'll share them with our panelists today. Before we continue with our celebration of amazing military spouses, I want to take a minute and tell you all about the CMSI partnership. Blue Star Families and the Association of Defense Communities came together at the onset of the pandemic to create the COVID-19 Military Support Initiative to try to keep everyone in our community engaged. We're partnering with over 60 amazing nonprofits to help bring information to folks, 2 town halls a week, such as this one, a newsletter, paint point polls to keep up to date with what's happening in our community, and ideas for change to help support our families every day. This initiative is possible because of the incredible sponsors, Booz Allen Hamilton, major support from USAA, and the other sponsors you see here today. To begin our celebration, we'd like to start with a special message from Second Lady Karen Pence. Second Lady Karen Pence is does amazing work as the honorary co-chair of the Blue Star Museums Initiative, and we thank her for her passionate work on military spouse employment. Ladies and gentlemen, Second Lady Karen Pence.
It is my tremendous honor to wish each and every one of you a happy Military Spouse Appreciation Day. Our military is the heart of our nation, and we honor you as you stand beside your service members in service to all of us. You know, it was in 1984 that President Ronald Reagan was the first to designate the Friday before Mother's Day as Military Spouse Appreciation Day. We continue this special celebration as a nation each year to honor your service and sacrifice. Throughout my time as Second Lady, I have made it my priority to recognize military spouses, elevate the unique challenges you face, whether it is frequent moves or employment concerns, and celebrate your tremendous accomplishments. I have had the great honor of meeting with many of you from coast to coast and beyond over the past several years. Your resilience in the face of adversity, your dedication to your families and our nation, and your ability to adapt and thrive never ceases to amaze me. One of my key initiatives over the years has been promoting military spouse employment solutions. I've spoken to employers, military communities, and individuals the world over, touting your strengths and highlighting your accomplishments. We all know that military spouses face unique challenges in their careers, and I have been honored to help promote solutions. We have been able to recommend changes to state licensing requirements and the ability to maintain your state residency for business purposes despite a PCS move. While these efforts may seem minor to some, I know how important they are to working military spouses, allowing you to enjoy a robust and meaningful career. Maintaining your career is important to your personal identity and to your ability to support your family, and I am honored to play a small role in helping ease some of the career challenges that you face. During my time working with so many military spouses, I continue to be in awe of your eagerness to serve your communities. According to the 2019 Military Family Lifestyle Survey, more than half of military families have actively participated in a local group or organization, in their local civilian community. You all give selflessly to support your communities, your unit families, our military, and our nation. Military spouses have giving hearts, and I have seen time and again how you show up for your communities. I look forward to continuing to work beside you, encouraging you, and supporting you as you work tirelessly to support your families, our military, and our great nation. Thank you so much for all that you do. Happy Military Spouse Appreciation Day.
And we appreciate you, Mrs. Pence, and all that you do for us. And now I'd like to welcome another great friend of military spouses, a great military spouse herself, Mrs. Holly Ann Milley, wife of Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Mrs. Milley has been a nurse for 32 years and well understands the healthcare challenges people face. She's been an advisor to many of the top nonprofits supporting military families. We appreciate all that she does. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Holly Ann Milley. Thank you, Holly Ann Milley. And now it's my great pleasure to welcome Brianna Keeler, CNN anchor, author of Homefront, military spouse and a great friend, both of mine and of Blue Star Families. Brianna, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Kathy. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's really fun to take a pause and celebrate military spouses and hear stories and invite everyone out there to share stories. And as we were thinking about stories, I was thinking about how you and I came to meet initially. And, that was really through meeting some folks from Blue Star Families and going from there. And I wondered if you'd be willing to share that story.
Yeah, that was one of the most happy accidents of my life. One of my friends, who's actually another journalist here in Washington, D.C., was supposed to MC one of your events, the unveiling of your awesome survey, which I've come to rely on as a journalist to know what's going on just writ large with military families. And she had some obligation where she couldn't do it. So I ended up pinch hitting and filling in, MCing at this event. I was a relatively new military spouse. I just married into the military several months before. I just found out actually that I was pregnant. And so that was how I first met you. And I came to get to know you and Blue Star Families. And I mean, I love Blue Star Families because it has a heart and it has a brain. The heart is everything that the chapters do, reaching out to people, building community. And then the brain is just this important data that allows us to see what everyone's experiencing and also know that in some of the challenges and also in our triumphs, we're not alone with that. But, one of the best things about our relationship, Kathy, has been our time-to-time breakfast that we have, where we kind of we'll discuss the trends that are going on with military families. But you always start by giving me the download of your personal experience, which has been hugely helpful. When I first started out, my husband was on his 6th combat deployment. It was the first for me. And I mean, I at least really felt like I was failing at being a military spouse. I was starting to feel isolated. And, you were a huge lifeline, and Blue Star Families was a huge lifeline. And you even encouraged me to launch a column about military family issues, which I now do, and is really just the thing that really puts gas in my tank day to day, Kathy. So thank you.
I remember my friends and coworkers coming back from a lunch with you, and 2 of them were pregnant and you were pregnant. And they're like, yeah, she never sat down with other military wives before. And she was like, oh, my husband had said he was going to get out. And we're like, no, they never get out when they say they're going to. Right?
Yeah, that's right. They were like, girl, he is not getting out when he says. And I thought, oh, really? Oh, okay. They said, you can't hold him to that. I mean, I had civilian friends who, like, bless their hearts. Some of them were saying to me, because I wasn't even sure there was going to be a deployment in my future as a military spouse. And so far there's been 2, and my husband's now still in the Army. And they just one of them said, why doesn't he just get out of the military? And I remember thinking, okay, that doesn't sound like the advice that I need at all. That doesn't sound helpful. I'd be really mad if someone asked me to get out of journalism, like the thing that I have as a calling. And it wasn't until I sat down at this lunch with several spouses, including Alice Crutcher and Penny Bolden of Blue Star Families. And I mean, I walked out of there just feeling so much better, just knowing that everything I was dealing with was normal, armed with all of this advice about how to weather it, just when it came to expectations and also just sort of mentally, it was beyond helpful.
Well, we have some other fabulous women to join us here today. I'll bow out and I'll let you introduce them. But
okay.
Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Kathy. Okay, so we have a wonderful group of military spouses, senior spouses, to be with us here today. And I want to introduce them before we jump into this discussion. We have Mrs. Laura Heighten. She's the spouse of General John Heighten, Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Her focus for many years has been on caring for military families, and these efforts are represented in her development of what's called JAM, Just Among Military Moms. This is a program that aims to strengthen the spiritual resiliency of many military moms and their children to create meaningful connections. So if she can jump in here so that we can see her and you can all meet her as well, Laura Heighten. And then also we have Mrs. Maria Conville. She is an Army veteran, and she is the spouse of General James McConville, Chief of Staff, U.S. Army. And before starting her own nutrition consulting business, she worked for a number of years in hospitals. She worked in long-term care facilities, health organizations. And right now she coaches her clients and mentors military spouses to create a wellness vision in order to live life authentically and passionately. And Maria is also the visionary behind the Spouse Master Resilience Training Program, which is a program that is so especially applicable right now. So welcome to Maria. Also, Mrs. Kelly Hokanson, the spouse of General Daniel Hokanson, Director of the Army National Guard. Throughout her husband's career, Mrs. Hokanson has made supporting military spouses and families a big priority. As a former teacher, go teachers, she's always willing to lend support to programs that are aimed at the resiliency of our military children. And more recently, her focus has been on the issue of spouse employment, which is always relevant, but is especially relevant right now as we're facing these new economic challenges. Tanya Wright is with us as well. She's the spouse of Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Khalith Wright. And Mrs. Wright herself actually joined the Air Force in 1995 as a material management specialist. She retired as a Master Sergeant in 2014 after serving in several roles stateside as well as assignments overseas. And while she continues to serve the Air Force in retirement, developing a forum called Let's Talk to encourage spouses and family members to achieve their goals, among other efforts. And I will tell you, it's so nice to see you all. We had a really lovely meeting yesterday where we got to know each other a little bit. And I don't know, I'll say for myself, maybe not for all of us, but I, for one, appreciate this, this opportunity to wash my hair, because I think yesterday we had a contest going. I think I won it. I was on day 4 of dry shampoo. I'm not saying who was right behind me, but I'll tell you, we certainly have our favorite brands, right, ladies? Because that's where we all are. I think we're all right there right now. So this is, of course, Military Spouse Appreciation Day. I want to make sure that all of you have unmuted your cameras. And I just want to talk a little bit about sort of something that's on my mind before I pick your brains about what you've been thinking about. I've been thinking about, and I finally put it down into writing, it's going to be on cnn.com/homefront, which is my column tomorrow, just how appreciative I am of the skills that military spouses possess. I mean, to be sure, I know there's a lot of military families who are disproportionately negatively affected through this COVID pandemic, but I'm also seeing so many military spouses who seem to be taking it in stride in a way that some civilian families are not. They seem really prepared for these things we're struggling with, right? Uncertainty, isolation from our family members, and just how you take things one day at a time, how you work through economic and job struggles. And that's something that I'm really thankful for. So I really want, especially as a fairly new military spouse, to pick your brains. So I'm going to start with Mrs. Heighten. I just want to hear about what you're reflecting on this very special day.
Oh, hi, Brianna. And it was so nice to hear a little bit about you and how you have already learned just talking with military spouses can make you feel so much better. We have this connection just because we have so many commonalities in this crazy life that we have, crazy, wonderful life. So thank you, Brianna. I don't know, Military Appreciation Month and the Military Spouse Appreciation Day is something to celebrate. And as I saw that little video that preceded our presentation, I'm so in awe of you guys. You're so amazing. And I just thought, to begin with, I'll share an ancient story of mine, because I've been married to my husband for 32 plus years. He's been in 39, and I met him as a captain. And after a little over a year of marriage, we went from Los Angeles to a temporary duty, and how temporary it was completely unknown. He went ahead of me, not knowing, and then called me and said, "It looks like it's going to be like 4.5 months. So do you want to join me?" I'm like, "I married you because I liked you, and yes, I do want to come and be with you." So he came back, got the baby, who was not even a year old, took our baby to Huntsville, Alabama, his hometown. So kind of nice in that sense. And I took a trailer, loaded it up with stuff, and my mom joined me cross country because she didn't want me to be alone. Second day in, we had a flat tire with the U-Haul. She swore after we got it fixed, tonight we're going for margaritas because we'd been stuck in the desert. And so when I said, Mom, I'll be the designated driver, it sounds like fun. She says, what's up? Because she knows me. And I love my mom. I lost her just on April 14th, just a little over a month ago. My mom passed on. And I like to remember these things like her, you know, just being a little bit ornery. Anyways, she looked at me, she says, what's really going on? I said, well, chance I'm pregnant, Mom, so be happy to drive. And we get to Dallas, and sure enough, they made me go to our friend's OBGYN, have kind of like a drive-through pregnancy test. And I called my husband that night to tell him I was designated driver, and surprise. So military life brings about so many surprises like that. And we become so flexible. And even when these changes and these new assignments don't at first seem exciting or desirable, we forge ahead and discover that if we're just open to it a little bit, it can be really amazing. My husband, while we were there, I forget if it was 4.5 months or the second 4.5 months, because he had to re-up that TDY. And we ended up being there 11 months and having our son there. And but he comes home one day and he says, Laura, I've got a job offer and I'm going to take it. And that's just the wrong way to approach things with me. I said, excuse me, I thought you loved the Air Force. Why would you quit something you loved? And he says, well, I'm not quitting. I said, well, sounds like it to me. And he just says, well, they've offered me 3.5 times what we make. I said, I told you when we got married, I don't need to be rich. I just want to be able to pay our bills. He says, yeah, but we could have a nice house on the golf course. And, you know, we talked for like an hour then. I'm going round and round about he loved the people and the mission and the chance to serve. And he loves his country. So in the end, obviously, you see, he decided to stay in, and he, like I said, 39 years later. But after this experience, you know, when you come back and you start your next assignment and quick turnaround, maybe the next, I got to meet a few spouses, and I really didn't get locked into connecting with spouses early on. There weren't so many resources back then either, but just we never lived on base till, gosh, 20 some years in. So, but once I got to talk to some of these spouses, my story paled in comparison. I love hearing spouses' stories. I love hearing what they've accomplished and overcome and their attitudes, and they're just can do. It's just wonderful. And this is partly why I loved establishing JAM, just among military moms. It was in response to the chapel not being able to support, not fully support monetarily, the military MOPS that had been there at the chapel. And so our leadership team with MOPS group stepped up and said, well, we want to keep it. We know it makes a difference for the family. So what can we do? And I had a group of 13 to 15 women who, in spite of being moms of young children themselves, stepped up to the leadership just to make other military families stronger. And it's such a great program. I just can't say enough great things about the women involved and the people who've made it a success, and the people continuing to want to make it so that we can plan it at any installation, post or base or whatever. So come this summer, I'm hoping that we'll get more news on that. But a shout out to all those women. Thank you, and I love you, and you're just so wonderful, and I love hearing your stories, and I'll continue to reach out and hear all about what's going on in your lives. Thanks, Brianna.
Sounds like a wonderful organization, and you're jogging some memories for me about being the designated driver, because on that first deployment that I went through, my husband left and I was thinking like, all right, 6 months of cocktails with my friends. And then I found out I was pregnant 10 days later. Turns out it's not that bad if your husband misses the first trimester. I will say that. Maybe not the second one, but I wasn't much fun the first one.
Right. And you may find this out too. It seems like they're always gone for events like, I don't know, tornadoes, earthquakes, whatever. It's just, you know.
Yeah, totally. Mrs. I wonder what's on your mind today.
Well, thanks, Brianna. just so many great military stories. I don't come from a military family at all. And so after college, I had to do a dietetic internship, and I didn't want to take out loans to do that. So I found an internship that actually paid, and it was with the Army. I didn't know anything about the Army, but I knew that I liked adventure. And I thought, okay, well, this will be a new adventure. So got my commission into the Army coming out of college. And boy, what an adventure it has been. Not only as a soldier, in the active Army and reserves, but now as an Army spouse for 32 years, and now also as an Army mother. So all three of our children are active duty Army, plus our son-in-law. So we are one big happy Army family. And I kind of like to, I really feel like being in the military is just one big family. And a particular memory that comes to mind for me is back in 2002, we were PCSing again. We were going to Fort Hood, which is one of the biggest Army installations that there is. And our kids were all younger at the time, of course. And I remember thinking in the car on the way down there, this is a huge Army post, but I don't know anyone there. Like, who are going to be my friends? Like, I don't even know anyone there. And, you know, of course, like all Army installations, we get there, we move on post, and within few minutes, the kids from the neighborhood are coming to see who the new kids on the block were. And a couple weeks later, school started, and a bunch of the ladies in the neighborhood have this tradition that on the first day of school, they would go out to breakfast and then go to the movies to celebrate school being back in session. And so they invited me, and I was getting dressed, and one of my sisters called me, and I said, I really can't talk. You know, I got to get in the shower, I got to get ready. And she said, well, where are you going? And I said, oh, well, I'm going out to breakfast and to the movies. And she stopped and she said, who are you going there with? And I said, oh, a bunch of the ladies in my neighborhood. And she was silent for a second, and she said, Maria, I've lived in my neighborhood for 10 years. No one has ever asked me to go to breakfast or go to the movies. You are so lucky. And the Army isn't just a job, it's a way of life for you guys, isn't it? And I thought that that really summed it up, because we in the military, we don't take 10 years, we don't take 10 months, maybe not even 10 days, probably more like 10 minutes to get to know each other. And it's unconditional acceptance. I had worried about not knowing anyone, but probably within 10 days, I had my new BFFs right there. And it's always just such a welcoming environment for us that I really value having one big happy family.
Yeah, no, I definitely connect with that. I've had I've had military spouses who are, one in particular I think of, who I'm lucky enough to think of, who said, we're going to be best friends now. I was like, that's great. I love it. Thank you so much, Mrs. McConville, for sharing your thoughts. And Mrs. Hokinson, what's on your mind today?
Well, when I was thinking about, first of all, thank you for having me, Kathy and Brianna. When I was thinking about this question last night, I was thinking, what an interesting career Dan has had. And when I first married Dan, I was a military daughter, but my father, he was retired when I was born, and he died when I was young. But my mother was a military spouse and did that for, you know, I'm the last of 8 children. And so I never actually lived that lifestyle. And then when I married Dan, all I worried about was being Dan's spouse, not a military spouse initially. But when I met Dan, he told me he was a janitor. And he wanted to see if I would still talk to him.
So
Which was
funny.
so interesting, because he's very shy. And so anyway, we dated for 10 months, get engaged, married 10 months later. And we start this incredible journey that took us to so many different states. And then he got out of the military and went into the National Guard, which was a new journey. But along the way, the entire time, it's like Maria said and Laura, you find these people everywhere, and it is very different than the civilian world. I have wonderful people in the civilian world as well, but but it's very different. It doesn't take but 10 minutes really. And I had no idea how rich my life would be because of it. And so I'm so thankful I'm a military spouse, even though that didn't mean anything to me when I said, yes, I'll marry you, Dan. That was a back burner thing for me. But when we just celebrated 30 years, well, in quarantine, so we have to celebrate, but we will. But 30 years is a long time, and when I look at my life, I'm just so grateful for all of you. I mean, I would have not known any of you or the wonderful people in my life. So that's what's on my mind about military spouses, and I'm grateful to be one and to have all of you.
I love that. It's a beautiful story. And Mrs. Wright, you have a very unique perspective as well, because you've really seen this from both perspectives, both as a military spouse and also as an airman. What are your thoughts on being a military spouse?
So again, thank you, Kathy and Brianna, for inviting me today. My story mirrors a lot of the other ladies' stories. I will say that Khalid and I have only been married for about 6 years now, so I'm kind of new to the military spouse side of things. I retired in 2014. We got married right when I retired, and I became a military spouse. And I'll tell you a story that gets me in trouble sometimes, but I tell it anyway. When we got married, I was quite adamant to my husband that I wanted no part of the spouse side of things. I wanted nothing to do with spouses. I had my ignorant preconceived notions about what a military spouse was. And so when we first got married, I was very vocal about, not wanting anything to do with spouse clubs or spouses, whatsoever. And so I'll just say that I'm so glad that I was open-minded, and the spouses that I met along the way, they have just been so awesome and so welcoming. Words that come to mind. It's really hard to put into words what it means to be a military spouse, because it's like an exclusive club that it's hard to describe unless you're a part of it. It's like the community, the family, the way that the spouses are there for you, the spouses that I met along the way that helped me just become who I am today, and just the friendships that I've made, like the ladies were saying, I've got friends that I've had when I was a civilian from like school growing up. I've got really great military friends from my 20 years when I was active duty, but there's just nothing like a military spouse. Some of the greatest friends I've met have been military spouses. They just really get you without any words being spoken. They understand, they know what you're going through, and then it's just a great community. So I'm so appreciative of my time being a military spouse.
Yeah, I definitely connect Mrs. Wright with that idea of it being a club. And it is one of those clubs it's kind of exclusive in a way, and you can't know what it's like until you're in it. It's so interesting that you were an airman. Obviously you didn't have that, you had a military family experience, and yet it is different being a spouse. And as I've become more vocal talking about my experience of being a military spouse, one of the things that I try to do is show civilians what it's like. And a lot of times they don't understand it, right? And sometimes they look at the military family lifestyle, and there's this bit of sympathy that they have sometimes. And I get that. I appreciate the empathy, but I also think about how lucky we are, because we're part of something that's so complex. Going through things that are challenging, that's not always awful, right? That's how you discover how strong you are. I think about, I never thought I would be able to go through an entire deployment without my husband, and I was pregnant. And then just by happenstance, he happened to be in Japan, and I was I went into labor almost a month early, and he nearly missed the birth. And I was upset as, you know, as the labor progressed, it looked like he was going to make it. And then his connecting flight into DC from Chicago was delayed. And I thought, he's not going to make it. And I was so sad for a moment. And I turned to my friend, who I've since introduced to someone in the Army, and she's married him. So I'm like, I'm converting people left and right here. And I said, I don't think he's going to make it, Carol. And she said, I don't think so either, sweet pea. And then we just, like, you know, pulled up our breeches. Well, not really. I wasn't wearing any breeches. But we just sort of said, all right. And we just thought, okay, well, we'll get on with life. And I actually look back on that moment, and I even had some people say, like, I can't believe your husband wasn't there. He was for the last 40 minutes. He narrowly made it. But I remember thinking, I had a really fun time, actually. Like, who gets to just chill with their girlfriend in delivery? And I had the best time. And I think
that's looking at the positives, you know, that's awesome.
You do have to look at the positives, Mrs. Heighten. I think you know all about that. Is there any particular military spouse that you appreciate, or a story that is, you know, funny when you think of all of the things that you have gone through personally, or that you have experienced? Because I know you've all seen it all, and it's something, I think, to the outside world, it's hard to understand, but there's these beautiful moments in even these areas of, like, difficulty.
Brianna, I think you hit it on when you were talking about your difficult experiences as being a military spouse. I think it really prepares us for times such as this, and being adaptable and being resilient and being flexible to different times. I know there are so many spouses out there whose you know, their members' deployments have gotten extended and they're by themselves with the kids. I know there are so many spouses out there that PCSs and retirements are on hold, and it's just kind of an uncertain time, you know, but we just kind of roll with the punches, if you will. We just, not PCS, my husband's retiring this summer, so we just moved out of our house, and we literally moved this week, so I hastily put these pictures up. They might fall down. They might fall down while we're talking. If that happens, that's okay. But for me, I mean, there's so many spouses out there that I appreciate, like I was saying, that have helped me along the way. I know I retired as an enlisted member. I retired as a master sergeant, and so when Khalif and I got married and we reported to our first duty station on Ramstein, I was really nervous and anxious about, you know, I had never really been around officer spouses, let alone GO spouses. And so I was really nervous about what to expect. And I'll tell you, the welcome that I got was just amazing. The GO spouses that welcomed me, the other senior spouses that welcomed me. I was feeling inadequate because I had not been involved in the spouse side of things. I had not been involved with, like, you know, family programs and all that. So it was just a huge learning curve for me. So I didn't know what I had to bring to the table. I hadn't been involved with spouse clubs or anything like that. And so, like I said, I was just feeling really inadequate, and they just helped me to, you know, understand, hey, you just bring a different perspective, you just bring a different insight. Like, they helped me to get up to speed. They welcomed me with open arms, like I said. And so there's so many spouses but those are my fondest memories, is my first time coming on to a command team with my husband, and the first spouses that I met who welcomed me and helped me to get engaged. And so those are the fond memories that I think I'll carry with me throughout the year.
One of the things that I think is so universal in the military spouse experience that I was not expecting at first was how transitional time, especially after deployments and reintegration, can be really tough. And I would have my friends at work, I mean, these are people even who have covered the military, and they would say, you must be so happy to have him back, thinking somehow that now that the deployment was over, like, all of the difficulty was over. And so now I'm looking around. I wonder if any of you have reflections on this, because I've been looking around, following social media. People are cooped up with their partners or their spouses, and they're really struggling with it. And they feel bad about it because they've never had to do this, right? They've never worked from home and kind of been stuck in the same place and had the time they spend with their spouse dramatically increased, and they're not on vacation, right? And so one of the things I wrote in this column that's coming out tomorrow is we have a label for that. It's called reintegration. And now all of you have a label to explain the feels, good and bad, that you have about this time. I wonder if any of you have kind of thought, oh yeah, I've seen that before.
Really not my question. My husband's gone so much and has been over the years, and he's there 7 days a week, usually 6 or 7 days a week in the Pentagon and working. So that's not me, somebody else.
I think reintegration can be hard because there's so much hype when they come home. I remember thinking I learned my lesson the first deployment when Jimmy was gone for a year. And then when he came home and they had some time off and we were together, I thought that, you know, he would want to be with us 24/7. But what I had to also learn was when he was deployed for a year, he had this whole other family over there, and they all became this brotherhood and sisterhood together. And so even though he was so happy to be back with us, he still needed to be with his brotherhood and sisterhood of friends and comrades that he was in war with. And I didn't understand that at first, and I had to learn the hard way. But I really realized that to him, family wasn't just the 5 of us, it included his brothers and sisters in arms.
Yeah, good words. Right.
What about you, Mrs. Hokinson?
I would agree, and I didn't understand that perspective. Dan was gone a lot early in our marriage, and that's what really taught me about reaching out to other military spouses. You know, when we moved, I was like, Maria, who are going to be my friends? And I wasn't going to have any if I didn't reach out as well. And so I think the military has taught us how to adjust, how to take care of ourselves. You know, the reintegration is tough because you've spent a year away from your spouse or however long it is, however long your deployments are. But, you know, I felt a little like Maria as well, wanting all of that time, and he wasn't ready for it. Plus we have 3 kids, and Dan and I are both from very large families. So reintegration isn't just the 5 of us. It was you know, he's one of 7, I'm one of 8. It was a lot of people that wanted his time. And so you learn that for sure. You learn how to share. Definitely.
Are there anyone have a final reflection here on Military Spouse Appreciation Day, as we have, you know, we have so many spouses who are watching that we certainly appreciate and connect with?
I'd love to share about the minority, the male spouses.
Yes.
Yeah, we had well, I'll back up. At Peterson Air Force Base, I was invited to join in Wednesday morning coffees, just an informal thing. Every Wednesday, same time, dress, you know, come as you are. If you're going to the gym or if you're going to a business meeting, it's fine, just show up. And it was wonderful. And sometimes it was just 2 people, sometimes it was 10 or 12. But it was a great time to get to know new people, to invite people to, I don't know, take part in jobs or connect or be part of a group or just catch up on life. It was wonderful. I always looked forward to that. And I carried this on forward as I was the last one standing. I'd be the one organizing people and inviting, and then at off I did the same. And there was one a male spouse, Andy Weddington, who's an artist, a really well-known artist. And well, so sometimes he'd get disappointed when the groups were small. So he was so funny. At Christmas time, he would paint these little. He'd cut out the Starbucks emblem from a cup, and he'd make an artistic kind of presentation on it, and there'd be a giveaway for the people who were present, you know, to entice more people to come. He was just so funny. So he was a real rallying cry for this group and for reaching out to people and for connecting people. It was just great. And then a couple other male spouses joined in. Once one expresses no fear and of the women, you know, and talking too much, you know, they're more comfortable. And I loved that sense of community.
Well, look, I just want to thank all of you for joining this conversation. This has been so wonderful. It's been so nice to hear your reflections. You've all seen it all. You've seen it all at different levels, and it's nice to hear some of your stories from years ago as well. I hope that that was fun for you to kind of dig back and think of some of those special times in the past as well. So thank you so much for sharing your stories. And I want to turn things back over to Kathy now because she's got some very important, exciting announcements. Kathy.
Thank you, Brianna, and thank you, Maria and Laura and Kelly and Tanya. I had so much fun listening to you all, and I hope everyone on the webinar had so much fun too. Brianna is our Blue Star ambassador. She does such a fantastic job in that role, and I urge you all to check out her Homefront column on CNN. Send her in story ideas because a lot of times they come in, and Brianna, we just love having you in the family. So thanks for all you do.
Front at CNN.com, and I do check emails, so please send them. I want to hear story ideas. Thanks, Kathy.
My pleasure. So in honor of Military Spouse Appreciation Day, we have really fun giveaways for everyone on the call today. We have some fantastic partners, Amazon, CVS, and Starbucks, who are all have hundreds of prizes for each of you. We have a $10 Amazon gift card, $5 Starbucks gift cards, CVS gift cards, and we have some beautiful bracelets from Mrs. Pence that have her the White House insignia on it, and we'll be choosing them all from the folks who come and have been part of who have registered today. And in addition, to make sure everyone who's on the webinar today, we have a special gift. We know from our COVID-19 pain point polls that a lot of folks are struggling with mental health, and they want some things to help them with their self-care. We have a new and special partner I'd like to introduce you all to. This is Jamie Papps, who's the CEO of Spiritomb. I'd like to invite Jamie to join us. You can say thank you and let Kelly and Laura and Tanya move on, and look forward to introducing you all to Jamie in person one day. Jamie has a fantastic app called Spiritomb. We're really happy to share more about it today. And Jamie, can I invite you to go ahead and speak a little bit?
Yes, great. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Kathy, so much for having me join. It's a really special day. I'm happy to be honoring military spouses today. And I too showered and washed my hair in celebration of the occasion, which I know is a big deal these days. But as Kathy mentioned, I'm the CEO and founder of Spiritomb, and Spiritomb is a music app that harnesses the neuroscientific and music therapy principles for stress reduction and emotional regulation, which I think is something that is really sorely needed these days. And so we are really excited about our partnership with Blue Star Families. And so to kick off this partnership, I'm so thrilled to announce that Spiritomb will be offering a free yearly subscription to all Blue Star family members and everyone here present on today's call. And we hope that you'll take advantage of the opportunity to use music for self-care during this really stressful time. So please take advantage of it, enjoy, would love to hear your feedback, and thank you so much for your dedication to serving our country. I'll turn it back over to you, Kathy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jamie. And Jamie is such a great example of what we call our Blue Star neighbors. You know, none of us can do this alone. We're in our communities, and when our friends and neighbors outside the community embrace us, everything is better for all of us. I think we're going to extend the gift that Jamie offered to our panelists as well, so our senior spouses can enjoy it. It's really special. You start with your music where you are, with the mood you are, and it brings you to the mood you want to be. It's good for your kids. It's good for your spouses. We hope you all enjoy. Please look for your post-event email. We want to know how you received this webinar so we can continue to improve it. We also want to ask you to share your stories, because we'd love to hear from you. We also want to ask you to take our pain point poll to understand how your family is experiencing the COVID challenges. We want to know the strengths that you're seeing, but we also want to know the specific challenges. And if there's an acute pain point that maybe we or a member of our larger coalition can help you with, put your contact information on. We're actively solving challenges and problems as we go. I'm really pleased the way our whole community, government representatives, nonprofits, community partners are working hard to try to make things go as smoothly as possible for military families during this time. I really want to thank ADC for partnering with us on this COVID-19 military support initiative. They've been a fantastic organization. They represent the community groups where there are defense communities, and bringing the whole community together, the military connected folks and our local communities, really makes us stronger. I hope everyone on the call today goes into the weekend feeling appreciated. We all appreciate you. We appreciate all you do for your service member, for the military community as a whole. We hope to hear more from you in the future. Join us for future town halls. We have one in particular I want to bring to your attention. On Tuesday, we are focusing on healthcare for military families during COVID-19. And we have members from the Defense Health Agency on. They can answer your questions and they can give you some great information. If you're free at 3 o'clock, please join us there. And please watch the email for other opportunities and let us know if there's a topic you want to hear from. I appreciate your time. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us. Sending you all the best wishes and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.